supposed to bring in frequency so we can register what we do in the environment. Our body picks it up. But what happened is that I think they knew that there was going to be some sort of frequency assault. So they created a practice, because not all Jewish women do that. Not all. Because if you look in itself, like you look at the actual, the more Sephardic Jews who are from Yemen, from Ethiopia, from Turkey, from Morocco, Spain, those weren't things that I think they did previously. So any of my Jewish family, you can let me know if that's true. Because I found it interesting that that group did similar things to the women of Islam, but the women of Islam all covered their hair. Whereas it was different with the Jewish women who were the Asidai. It was totally different with them. They didn't do this. They cover their hair. They wear the wigs to cover their hair, but they shave their hair. And hair is frequency. But also, it makes you easier to be under mind control if you have your head out, bald. Like if you cut your hair and you leave it out uncovered, you are more susceptible to mind control, because that's why they shave people's heads before they do anything electromagnetically. They'll shave their heads, making them more susceptible. But the Jewish Hasidic women tend, not only do they shave their heads, they put hair on their heads that's not their own. And also they don't put hair on their head from certain groups of women. They won't buy wigs from places like India, the Southeast Asia, places where there are melanated women. They will only get wigs from other Russian women, like women in this, and from what I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they only buy wigs of hair, organic hair, that is from Eastern Europe. That's why their wigs cost like thousands of dollars. I mean, they get it cut, everything just like their hair. So am I correct? How many hours I sat at LaGuardia in full light has one did the same thing. I want to ask, because I have my Jewish friends, but I'm just saying, I found this very interesting. When I'm talking about mind control, I'm really looking at things from a very microscopic position. Okay? I just look at it from a certain position. I think of the people who have the most control over social media, who have control over the banking systems, who have control over things like that. And I think to myself, they must know something, because you're in a position where you have more access to higher field information. So whenever I see any people like that, it doesn't matter if it's Jews, it doesn't matter if it's people from Islam, it doesn't matter if it's people from a specific country. I want to see where that's coming from. And when I see a group of people who know something, who have more information, and I look at the things they do, I watch it with a keen eye, because I'm thinking, why do the women from Islam cover their hair, but they don't shave it? But the Jewish women who are Hasidic, who come from more wealth, establish more influence over social media, how come they have shaved their hair? It makes me think. And also the men cover with the yarmulke. They cover their crown with the yarmulke. The yarmulke covers the crown exactly, right? So the crown of their chakra is covered with the black. Usually it's not always black, with the yarmulke. And if you ever see a yarmulke up close, it has a beautiful fabric on the inside, but they cover their crown. So not only are the women totally covering their head, and shave their head and then cover it totally, the men wear yarmulkes over their crown. They do allow their Sidai men do have these sideburns to pick up certain things. Like this picks up frequencies. They have the little curls. I just wanted to talk about that, because I wanted to bring up that, because that's important when we talk about frequency assaults. I personally know that they are assaulting the frequencies with the music that they're looping in all the grocery stores. So I wanted to give the warning, like if you're going into grocery stores and you're going into places where you know you're going to be exposed to this frequency loop mind control programming, put in ear, what do you call it? Ear buds. What's the thing? Ear wanted the name ear thingies, the things to cover your ears, not earmuffs, what's it called, y'all? Ear to close your ears up. What is that called? Anybody know what that's called? Ear Yes, noise and the headphones, earplugs, plugs. Thank you. Earplugs. Put in earplugs, no earpods. Earpods are dangerous to your ears because they carry frequency. I hope no one is putting earpods in their ears. I hope you're not putting Wi-Fi things in your ears because it goes directly to your brain. You're Wi-Fi-ing your brains. Put in earplugs. When you're going into places like grocery store, department stores, I'm telling you right now, you better protect your ears. Okay? You got to protect yourself from the frequencies. They're doing it everywhere. So that is a form of mind control programming that they're activating people with. And you don't even want to talk about the people who decided to go get their 15% off at the grocery store by taking every shot. Okay? The people who decide to get, go and get the pneumonia shot, the Kukarachi shot, what do you call it? What kind of shots they have? The vaccine. They got shots for everything. I'm just saying, people are being activated now. I am not a doctor. I am not a nurse. This is a comedy skit. This is not a real video. Just letting you know. Okay? Because YouTube likes to mess with my videos. Okay? I would just cover your ears. I would do a noise canceling, and it would only be when you're shopping. I'm not saying to walk out in the street like that because that's dangerous. You need to have your facilities, you need to have your awareness. But when you go inside, it's a frequency assault. That 1980s music that they're playing and looping all over these places is a frequency assault. And the hair thing, cover your hair. Cover your hair, ladies. You shouldn't have they are using the natural hair. This is what I'm saying. The natural hair movement was to make women susceptible to forms of frequency assaults. I personally think that. I think they did that purposefully. It wasn't for our health. It wasn't for our goodness. Even though it's healthy for us, they weren't trying to do it for that reason. They wanted to make you more assaultable. So they needed your antennas to be fully magnetizable, especially if you have hair that's really coily and wired, because your coils pick up more frequencies. So the more coily and curly your hair is, it's going to pick up all those frequencies. And if they hijacked all the frequencies, what do you think you're taking in? You're taking in, and also they are assaulting your fertility with that. Because now you look at all the places where people have, women are having destabilized menses. They're having issues with, children, giving birth to healthy live children. Everything is affected. Remember, women are very, very energetically sensitive because we are able to take in frequencies and we transmit it in our bodies. A lot of us store it into our bodies, and it can literally impede, or it can rewire your cellular components, like your DNA. It can do certain things, along with taking a multitude of extra, you know what I mean? Going in for your 15% off and getting all those things, then now you're basically like hardwired and susceptible to any sort of frequencies that are coming in. And it's literally going into your body and reconfiguring how you take in certain information with your environment. So it's important to do that. And how I'm saying this, y'all, is I just look at everything from all angles. And I've been noticing that for a long time, like I said, I always look at every group of people. That's what I'm saying. I don't really have any I don't really take any sides with anyone because everyone has information. That's why they want to keep you away from discussing things with certain people. They like to keep everybody separated in different groups because if you talk to the Haitians, if you talk to the Mexicans, if you talk to the Jews, if you talk to the Islamics, if you talk to the Scientologists, if you talk to the Christians, if you talk to the brown people, the lunar people, the Asian people, you will find out there are so many keys in each of those communities that you wouldn't have access to it unless you talk to those people. Gratefully, my group has everyone. I mean, we come from big up to the Zombies. We come from French Creole. Either it's Haitian, Martinican, we have Mexicans, we have people from Japan, Vietnam, Chinese background, people who come from brown Americans from the South, the North, Canadians. We got people we know from Romania. We got people we know from England, from the UK, from Switzerland, Sweden. Because when you bring all those groups together, you'll find out that there's certain information that you wouldn't have access to because they like to create separatism. That's their way of making sure that the information stays protected in those communities and you aren't able to see a full map of what they're doing. But I'm telling you right now, these bastards are trying to kill you with the frequencies. Please put a like on the video if you wanted to stay up, because I don't know. Willy Wonka and his Link of Doom. You know, again, this video, I'm already saying too much, and I know that I try to keep the videos up for longer, but it's hard to keep videos up if they keep assaulting me. Because remember, I'm going to come up here and purple pill you by accident. I don't mean to purple pill you. Unfortunately, I will purple pill you by accident. I'm sorry if I'm doing it. I really shouldn't do it, but sometimes I just have a big mouth. Let me put my lip gloss on. Sorry, y'all. Okay. When I give you remember we're on pole shift. So you remember the pole shift in my mind, in my knowing, the pole shift happens next year. So everything's happening quicker. And I want to just give I want you to just know that as we get closer to the craziness, we're not in 2024 now, but we're not in 2024 yet, y'all. But it's gonna be off the mother freaking chain, y'all. It's already starting. It's like we're in the preamp right now, the pre-tendrils of what's going to happen, but it's going to be crazy. So be careful with that. I wanted to say, I'm just going to give you a suggestion that when you go into grocery stores and anywhere where you're going to hear that loop, that mind control 1980s music, you got to be careful. You should mute it because it's literally, and listen, I don't care how you say you're not under mind control. Everybody is under mind control to a certain degree. That's why we'll use certain, some people are more susceptible to it because they're just more, their cellular, first of all, their ancestors were more capable. Okay. DNA matters. Like if someone's genetically homogenized, their ancestors, they're most likely they're genetically capped. So they aren't able to take in information. And you know it, like, I don't really listen. I was born and bred in the United States, right? My family's not from the States, right? But I have certain mind control programming. But one thing I know is if someone is perpetually believing the television and the news, I don't care where you come from. If I hear you say things that the news is saying and you're repeating it as if it's true, I already know you're under mind control. And I won't really battle with that. I can't fight with your mind control. You got to work with your mind control. Some of you just have it and you just stuck. Like certain things we have, our prejudices, our biases is all forms of mind control. Okay. When you have little babies aren't really equipped like that. You know what I mean? But there are certain people that are, genetically homogenized from, we don't even know if they're real. They might have just been hybrids from the mud flood people, the test tube people. Those people, they're totally under mind control. Those are just their genetics was only set up to go so far in consciousness. So they don't even have a level of consciousness. Those are the ones who keep saying things like white hats and black hats or Democrats and Republicans. There isn't any such thing. That's all polarities playing out. People playing into that polarity game. Listen, it's the same coin, different sides of the same coin. Democrats and that word doesn't sound right in this field. Democrats and Republicans are the same. They're the same coin, different sides of the same coin. When you say things like black or white, you're in polarities. You're in the polarity game. Okay. If you're going to say things like, I was listening to Alex Jones because, Alex Jones is really good with intel. I have to give him props because he's been longstanding, but he's I personally think he's probably another psyop. Even though his information is really credible, there's a form of him that I think is psyoped. But he'll say things like, oh, the blacks are beating up all the lunars and so on like that. I was like, yeah, I could see that's happening. But he doesn't talk about the fact that, a lot of Western countries have gone into every single so-called brown country and robbed, pillaged, and genocided. So yeah, touche. It's happening. It's all across the board. But you can't speak on one half and not acknowledge the other. You can't say that the so-called blacks are beating up on Lunars when you haven't acknowledged a whole genocide of entire countries. And, you know, I went to share about Haiti because I think Haitians are the most underrated, underspoken, advanced society that is being traumatized and destroyed, and nobody ever speaks about it. They'll be like, oh, save Ukraine, save Israel, but nobody will ever talk about what happened to Haiti. They had a whole prime minister that was assassinated by the United States and a whole bunch of others, and nobody said anything about it. Like, it's crazy to me that people are in the mind control. They only will acknowledge things that are promoted social media wise. And they are capped. Like if they have prejudices in their cellular memory, like a bias, no one ever brings up Bush. You ever notice that? How come everybody talks about Obama? Obama is totally, first of all, that's not a black president. For anybody who said that, first of all, he's not black. B-L-A-K. I said black. Okay, notice I didn't say melanated or brown. He isn't a black president. He wasn't raised by any brown people. He was raised by a lunar mother from the bloodline of the diabolical. He wasn't even a brown person, and he's not even a straight man. He's a homosexual man who is married to a man. Okay? So I don't understand why people bring him up so much and they don't bring up Bush and they don't bring up the Clintons as much. You had Hillary Clinton, this is allegedly, ripping off a child's face on a video, allegedly, okay? And people would prefer to keep talking about Obama because they really hate brown people. They really hate them. So they want to find everything wrong about the one bastard, because he's a bastard, but there's 50 million of them. There was one brown fake president, but you had a whole bunch of other presidents who set up for that whole system. But nobody ever brings up Bush. How come? Why don't you bring up Bush? Where's Bush? Nobody, that Bush family, he was married to a whole man too. Barbara Bush allegedly had a whole freaking Adams album. She looked like a man, a really bad man too. Like, how come you don't bring that up? You always want to bring up Obama, and I don't say you're not right. You're absolutely correct. But why don't you bring up Bell? That's how you know people are under mind control. If they're unwilling to see two sides of the same coin, they'll take one position and it could be correct. I'm not saying it's wrong. It could be correct. It's one position, but they won't acknowledge the other one. Listen, the United States is the most diabolical, disgusting, Satanist country. I don't know if you think that you're living in a righteous Christian, I don't know what you think this country is, but it is ran by Satanists. The countries, you know how every country has, like Israel, the main religion is Judaism. In Saudi Arabia, the main religion is, Islam. The United States, the main spiritual and occult religion is Satanism. It is a Satanist country. Everybody is involved in congressional and to the president. They're all Satanists. Okay. So I don't know why you think that the Satanists there's good Satanists and bad Satanists. Do you know Satanists? Do they sound like they're balanced to you? Okay. Anyone who thinks it's okay to harvest children's organs or to consume it to prolong their disgusting, dastardly, low frequency life, why would you think that there's any system that is acceptable? Do you think that all of these so-called people you voted into the congressional positions, you think they're not all participants? Even if they're not doing it themselves, they're complicit in it by being a party in a system that has a whole bunch of these mother freakers doing it. They're all complicit. Apathy does not give you anonymity. You're all complicit. If I know that you, my neighbor, are doing hurting children, eating children, or promoting trafficking of children, then I, by nature of being a participant, not saying anything, silence is banter for injustice. By me not saying anything or trying to make sure that your behind is taken out of commission, I am just as responsible as the mother freaker who's doing it. You got a whole country of all these so-called political people that you voted in, and none of these mother freakers are taking accountability for anything. Number one, how come we have chemtrails all over the United States? When is it that You couldn't go to a council meeting, because big up to my people who are a little more seasoned, mostly the baby boomers, because those are the ones who used to go to all the environmental meetings that, you know, the state holds. They were the ones who used to go in and say, hey, what are all these chemtrails in the sky? Why aren't you telling us why that's allowed and what's in those components? Then when the government used to, the Willy Wonka would ignore them, they would go in, and that's why I got to give the boomers some props. They would go in with water samples, or samples when it would rain, or dew would fall on, and it would take samples of it and then bring that chemicalized. That's how we know there was barium in it. That's how we knew there was aluminum in it. That's why we know there was strontium in it. We knew that because the baby boomers were the ones who took the samples and brought it in and say, hey, you know, what's in this? How come you keep voting in a governmental system that is rigged from its inception? Why do you think you have a constitutional right for anything when they only created the Constitution when it would allow them to have control over you and make you give you a false feeling of safety? All of it is rigged. I'm sorry, y'all. Listen, I don't know if I'm purple pilling you or not, but everything is a lie. Everything they ever told you is a lie. The whole system, there is no constitution. If there was a constitution, 2020 could never happened. If I was protected by, was it my First Amendment right? Is it First Amendment right? That is for to speech. Is it First Amendment, y'all? Is it first? Am I right? My First Amendment right is for my right to speak freely. Is that it? Am I correct? Just let me know which amendment. I don't really know. I think it's First Amendment, right? It's first? Okay. If in fact we were allowed, the Constitution was standing, your First Amendment right wouldn't be compromised. It was okay for you to see all these talk shows where people talk dastardly about other people. They didn't restrict them. Did you see them did you see anyone being prosecuted for speaking freely about something, even if it was if it was non-tasteful or ethically wrong? No. Your First Amendment right was always protected.